first segment, as I said, I want to get into what Kyle got into today at the press conference. And so we had this press conference around 3:30. And he always starts by going into the injured players. And he started off with D. Winters. Now, D. Winters re-aggravated his ankle. He had hurt the ankle a few weeks back, and he hurt it again in this game. So he, it sounds like day to day as far as D. Winters and the ankle. That I'm sure that doesn't feel good to kind of re-pull this, sprain the same ankle. The second one was Brock Purdy is on the injured list because of back pain. Now you sit there and go, sore back. Who's not sore? You play football, you get knocked around. Brock did get knocked around a little bit. He didn't take tons of sacks and tons of hits, but he was running for his life and he got nicked up a bunch of times. And obviously he's got some back pain going on because they had an MRI done of his back. So the way the Niners injuries tend to escalate, it's just a calf. It's a calf / Achilles. It's acute Achilles tendonitis. What's next for Purdy? It's his back. He's having fusion surgery. He'll be out all year. It's like, where can this potentially go? But that's never a good thing. One, because he's your starting quarterback. Two, because he's playing his ass off. And three, because I don't think you can win any games with the other guys. And nothing against Brandon Allen, who's been in the system for a while. I just think that when you look at what Brock Purdy actually does to lift this team up and get through the fact that it doesn't have a great, the receivers are not getting great separation, and the offensive line's not doing a great job at protecting the quarterback, and they're not doing a great job at opening run lanes. And, you start looking at the situation that is reality, and you go, well, wait a second, you're going to plug in Brandon Allen now for Brock Purdy, and you're still going to win games. You're going to plug in, Josh Dobbs for Brock Purdy, and you're going to win games. So the fact that Purdy's on the list with the MRI, obviously, is a concern. That's a concern, and we'll have to see where it goes from here. We'll see if he practices this week. Does he have a bulging disc? Does he have a herniated disc? Is he having numbness in his fingers and in his extremities? We just don't know. There's all kinds of things that could go on. It could be something where, hey, he just got hit a little bit and he's got some soreness, or he could have a full-blown herniation and surgery and it's pressing on his spine. you just don't know. So we're going to have to wait. But the fact that he had an MRI on his back is not good news. And so, okay, wow, we're 2 sentences into the presser, and suddenly the starting quarterback had just had an MRI on his back. So that's very serious. Until we got to the next one. Javon Hargrave tore his tricep. He actually played decently in the game. He had a sack, and it sounds like he's out for the year. And Kyle called it a big loss, and obviously it is. They paid him a ton of money. I don't know that he's really played to the level where he's earning that money. And I think there's a very good chance we'll never see Hargrave in a Niner uniform again. And I know people would sit there and go, oh, my God, Krug, that's so overdramatic. No, it's not. It's not overdramatic at all. He's not going to be back this year unless they make a deep run to the playoffs. So it sounds like late January, early February is when you could expect Hargrave. So that's one. Second of all, you look at the guy's body. He carries a lot of weight from the waist down. He's got huge legs. Are you telling me that he's, going to be in awesome shape at the end of the year? Probably not. So the odds of him playing again this year are remote, I would say, very remote. And then he's 2 years into this deal. I believe all the guaranteed money is in the first couple of years. He's been a colossal disappointment. They're going to be hugged up against the cap. They're going to have to pay their starting quarterback $60 million. They're going to have to look for cost savings somewhere. And the defensive tackle who's, got an overinflated, salary for his production is going to look very, very easy to be a cap casualty. So maybe they'll redo his deal. Maybe they'll figure out a way to keep him here long term. But my guess is this might be it for Hargrave. So we'll see. We may have seen the last of Javon Hargrave. And if so, what a colossal bad move that was. I hate to say it. I liked it at the time. I'll freely admit I thought it was exactly what they needed. I thought they needed a pass rushing defensive tackle in the worst way. And they got him in Hargrave, but look what they had to sacrifice. They lost Azeez Al-Shaair. They lost Jimmy Ward. They lost Hassan Ridgeway. They lost Samson Ebukam. They lost Emmanuel Mosley. I mean, they lost like 6 or 7 good heart and soul run defenders, and they really weren't that good against the run last year. The numbers, I think, were a little misleading. 49ers didn't really ever stop the run. They didn't stop it in the preseason. They only really stopped it when teams just quit running because the Niners offense, put up so many points that they just were like, oh, we can't run anymore. So they kind of outscored the Giants from running and the Dallas Cowboys from running and the Eagles late in the year from running and Pittsburgh in week 1 from run. These teams didn't want to run in the second half because they were 2 touchdowns down. So, but did the Niners ever really stop the run? Not really. They didn't stop the run well in the preseason. They didn't stop the run at all against Green Bay and Detroit in the playoffs. They were only slightly better in the Super Bowl. So, that was a concern. I mean, you added Hargrave, who's a pass rusher. He added a little pass rush, but you traded all these really good, solid run defenders for that pass rush. And I think the net result was your defense got worse. It's a big name defense. I mean, you see Hargrave and Bosa and Leonard Floyd, and you're like, oh, big names, but they really don't play to their level. Maybe none of the 3 actually at this point, but Hargrave especially. I mean, he's got a big name and a big rep and not a lot of game at this point. So how big of a loss is it? Well, I mean, it's a big loss because he's in his physical prime. And what do you do? I mean, Kyle suggested maybe Kalia Davis, who looked amazing in the preseason. He maybe had his best game as a pro. He did have his best game as a pro and he looked great, but he's got skinny little legs. And I don't know that he's going to be able to really be durable for any period of time. They're hoping to get him back soon. How soon? It doesn't sound like it's going to be in the next week or 2. So maybe by midseason you can get Kalia Davis back. And then realistically, how long can he stay healthy? I mean, that's the big question with Kalia. They have Evan Anderson, who's very talented. He's a kid that's losing weight and trying to get in pro shape and trying to cut out the baby fat and kind of hone his body. And he probably needs a redshirt year on the practice squad, to be completely honest. So I don't know that he's even an option to get pulled off the practice squad. T.Y. McGill is. T.Y. McGill is a veteran. They'll probably go immediately to T.Y. McGill. I would say immediately T.Y. gets activated going forward, probably, for the next few weeks, unless he falls on his face. But I would say T.Y. probably gets the activation. And then when Kalia Davis gets healthy, they'll choose between T.Y. and Kalia. And then if Evan Anderson can shed 30 pounds and, maybe he's a late in the year guy. I know he's working, but he does seem like a guy who's very raw, who they're kind of taking a long range redshirt view with. So that was one of the things that came up. Obviously the injuries, that was first and foremost. And then Kyle was questioned about how he ended the first half, or how he ended the game, I should say, where in the past they've been very conservative about not giving the ball back to their opponent when their opponent maybe could get a chance to score either at the end of the second quarter or at the end of the game. And, he's like, hey, we were trying to win it. So he was asked why, with 1:51 left on the clock in the fourth quarter, did you allow LA to get the ball back late in the fourth quarter? And he's basically saying, hey, we were trying to win it. But yeah, anybody could look at Shanahan's clock management in the second quarter at different points in his tenure here with San Francisco and say that he's been at times Jerry Falwell-like conservative, and other times he's like not. He's like, let's go for it. And it doesn't seem like there's any real rhyme or reason to it. Very, very conservative at the end of the first half in Super Bowl 54. But very, very aggressive with Josh Johnson with his final possession in the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia a couple years later. So, I mean, and why? Very conservative with Brock Purdy in the way he called the game in the Dallas playoff game and Brock's, I think, second playoff start. He was very conservative, but then very, let it all hang out when, they were behind and Josh Johnson was backed up. It was very weird. Shanahan's got I don't know that he has a philosophy or as much as it's a feel. And when he wants to go for it, he goes for it. And when he wants to be super hyper conservative, he is. In this case, they could have been conservative and played for overtime. Instead, they went for it and they gave the ball right back to the Rams, who made them pay and got out of there with a win in the field goal. So, what can you say? What can you say? It was a bad loss for the Niners. He was also asked about Talanoa Hufanga, and he said he thought he had a good first game back. He said he looked good on the film. He's obviously trying to work his way back into shape. It was revealed today that CMC traveled to Germany, or is maybe in Germany, visiting doctors who are Achilles tendon specialists. And Kyle said, hopefully it will help. I mean, look at the escalation of this. It's a calf. It's a calf / Achilles. It's Achilles tendonitis. And now he's getting on the bird to cross the pond to go to Germany to visit an Achilles specialist. That sounds like he's at a career crossroads. That sounds like he's got a lot of pain and doesn't want to have the ruptured Achilles surgery, but doesn't know what to do. And I don't know. I don't know if it's one of these plasma injection, platelet-rich deals. I have no idea what kind of procedure, what's the nature of the procedure. Kyle was not specific about it. But, I mean, think about that for a second. Christian McCaffrey's in Germany looking for a solution to his acute Achilles tendonitis. That's not good. I mean, that is absolutely not good. Kyle was asked about Dre Greenlaw today, and he said, at the beginning of the year, he was hoping for midseason. He said he's still a ways away, but he's still hoping for midseason. Why did that question come up? Because Devondre Campbell is a nightmare. He's nowhere close to Dre Greenlaw. And the Niners missed Dre Greenlaw in the worst way. Oh, my God. They have gone like 5 levels down, dropping from Greenlaw to Campbell. D. Winters was brought in for Campbell. I think Eric Branch. Was that a reflection on Devondre's play? And Kyle was like, no, that was not a reflection on Devondre's play. Let me answer that for you, Eric. Yes, that is a direct relation to Devondre's play. Okay. And I'll answer the question for Kyle. Kyle dodged it and said it was the two things didn't have anything to do with one another. I'll give you the truth. Devondre has not played well. The numbers show it. You can absolutely exploit him in pass coverage. He's slow. He doesn't move that well as far as agility in short areas. And absolutely, D. Winters came in for Devondre Campbell because Devondre Campbell wasn't playing well. So, yes, it means they are not happy with Devondre Campbell, regardless of what Kyle said. And then Kyle was asked about Jacob Cowing. This is another really interesting one. Friday, John Lynch told the KNBR Morning Show, expect to see Jacob Cowing. Thinking this game with the Rams could be a bust-out spot for Cowing. Now it's Friday. So I asked Shanahan about that. I'm like, Kyle, what's the deal? Is this we going to see Cowing? He's like, I don't know, maybe. And then he was asked today, are we going to see Cowing? He's like, he still has a ways to go. We'll let you know when he's ready, but he's not ready now. So I don't know if it was the punt that he kind of blew, the muffed punt, or if it's just a lack of strength or a lack of knowing the plays, or I don't know. But Kyle said Cowing's not ready to go today. Lynch made it sound like Friday that he was ready to go, and we were going to see more of him. So are these guys even on the same page? I think you got to ask that question. Kyle was also asked about the play where Brock did not see BA open down the field, and said that Brock was surprised that BA was open, and that it happened sometimes, and that Purdy didn't know where BA was, didn't know he wasn't where he was supposed to be, and by the time he realized where he was, and that LA had busted the coverage, that he couldn't get him the ball. So that was what he shared about Ayuk. And then he was asked about Mooney Ward. He says Mooney's healthy. Mooney's practicing. He's healthy. He was asked about George Kittle's health. He says Kittle's going to return to practice this week. He was asked about if he was surprised that LA, who normally goes with a lot of 11 personnel, went with a 12 personnel with the 2 tight ends. And he's like, no, we kind of expected it, with the injuries to their wide receivers, that they would go with 12 personnel. It's a 1-back offense. So you're either going with 11 personnel or 12 personnel. 11 personnel is 3 wides, 1 back. 12 personnel is 1 back, 2 tight ends. Well, with the injuries at wide receiver, they went with a lot of 12 personnel. And Kyle said it wasn't a surprise to the Niners at all. And then Kyle was kind of asked about, hey, what's your assessment of this game? And, how'd you guys lose this game? And he basically said, hey, look, the key was 3 balls that went up top for 130 yards. 2 of them were PI penalties, the result of guys not playing with poise on the ball in the air, and 1 was a 50-yard completion to Tutu Atwell against Mooney Ward. So he's like, those 3, they went 3 balls over the top of her head. It resulted in 130 yards. And Kyle thought that was the difference in the ball game. I thought that was a huge difference as well. The Niners got burned by the verticals. The Rams saw Justin Jefferson beat the Niners down the field with a vertical. They knew it was available, and they went to it when they needed it. And Yadam can't run well enough to defend the verticals. Mooney might not be able to run well enough to defend the verticals. They need to get Renardo Green on the field for Isaac Yadam. We'll get into some of those decisions. But, yeah, that was the big key in this game. 3 deep balls that equated to 130 yards of offense for the Rams. 2 on PI penalties, 1 on a 50-yard completion from Stafford to Tutu Atwell against Mooney Ward. So that was it right there. I mean, the vertical passes, you got to be able to defend the vertical passes, and the Niners really couldn't. And that was really the ball game. I mean, there's a few other things we could point to, of course. But man, it's too bad Jennings had an amazing game, career game for Jennings, but the Niners fall short.